Here's a live look from the U.S. Capitol building in Washington.
It's a busy week for lawmakers as the Trump transition calls for major shifts in power.
Joining us this morning to talk about more from Capitol Hill, we got our reporter there from the Hill, Julia Manchester. Julia, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Woo, a lot going on every day as the countdown continues to January 20th with Inauguration Day. We continue to look at the list, right, of Trump's picks for his cabinet, for his future administration. And of course, right now, most of the focus has been on Pete Hegseth, the Fox anchor who is being looked at to run the Defense Department. We know there's been a lot of hurdles. We also know that he spent some time the last 2 days up there, Julia, in Washington, trying to sway those potential voters. Where are we with that, and why is he having so many hurdles?
Well, it's pretty unclear right now. It's not only Pete Hegseth on the Hill, but it's his own mother going on Fox News, to try to push back on some of these very negative stories that have come out about Pete Hegseth over the past few weeks. His mother was responding to a New York Times report from last week in which a letter she wrote, or an email, I should say, she wrote to Hegseth years ago, calling him an abuser of women. She said, she quickly retracted that email and was very much trying to clean up that situation yesterday on Fox News and make the case for her son. But it's not only the series of sexual misconduct allegations facing Pete Hegseth. There are questions of whether he was drinking on the job, including during his time as an anchor on Fox, and also whether he mismanaged funds for two nonprofits for veterans he was helping manage. So there are a lot of questions, not only from those senators on Capitol Hill, the majority of which are Republicans, and he needs those votes to be confirmed. But also, I think there's growing questions from the Trump transition team and President-elect Trump himself. It was interesting. Yesterday, we confirmed that President-elect Trump called Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and talked to him about the possibility of him being his defense secretary pick. And we're told that Ron DeSantis is seriously considering that possibility. So unclear whether President Trump is trying to send a message to Pete Hegseth through calling Ron DeSantis, or if he's seriously looking for a backup. But negative stories about Pete Hegseth continuing to just pile on, but Hegseth isn't backing down.
Hegseth not backing down. We've heard he's not going to go the route of Matt Gaetz and go ahead and pull his name from consideration there. But looking back at Trump's first presidency, we know that when he makes a decision and he says you're no longer part of the team, he's pretty decisive with it. Julie, do you get the sense that that could be coming at all with this already reaching out to DeSantis to say, hey, would you be ready to be a backup?
Look, like I said, we don't really know. It could be that. It could be him trying to send a message to Hegseth that he's on thin ice and that he needs to clean up his act or do a lot to clean up his act. But we really just don't know at this time because Hegseth is saying that Trump has told him not to back down. So we're getting mixed messages, I think, from all sides of this. But, look, I think this is something I think we'll have to wait and see in what happens.
I don't understand why politics doesn't do a better job vetting before you even put a name out there to be scrutinized by the world, right? If Trump's team knew that they were going to suggest Pete Hegseth, why don't they do all of the work before they even mention the name and go, maybe there's too many skeletons in the closet, maybe we don't go there. I'm on my soapbox, Julia, because we've had that even with North Carolina politics in the governor's race in the last 6 months. So we've been there. I want to switch, if we can, because I don't want to run out of time. Kash Patel, who Trump is looking at for FBI director. Christopher Wray, who's the current director, was put in that position by Trump. Now Trump would want to take him down early, which you don't see very often. What do you make of all this going on?
Yeah, you don't see that very often. Christopher Wray's term, of course, expires in 2027. So there would be 2 years. And with this pick of Kash Patel, Donald Trump is essentially suggesting he would oust or take out Christopher Wray from the position of FBI director. Look, Kash Patel is going to have to do, like Pete Hegseth, a lot of convincing on Capitol Hill, even with Republicans. We know that there are a number of Republicans who like him because he is essentially a yes man to Donald Trump. But remember, FBI director is not supposed to be a political position, and Kash Patel is a very political figure, saying that he would want to dismantle the bureau in a way that, in which it would take on its adversaries, like in the, their words, not mine, but like in Kash Patel's words, the media, for example. So there are a lot of questions as to, how political Kash Patel would make this role, and whether it's rhetoric and grandstanding to get, sort of curry favor with Trump, or if it's something more serious.
And Julia, real quick, we got about 40 seconds left here. Ben Wickler, we know Wisconsin Democratic Party chair, you recently wrote about this. The DNC trying to figure out where they go next. What's the latest on that?
Look, we've seen Ken Martin, the chair of the Minnesota Democratic Party, receive over 100 endorsements, but he jumped in the race just over 2 weeks ago. Ben Wickler jumped in just last Saturday. He's already getting endorsements from multiple parts of the party. Third Way, a center-left group, has endorsed him. And then the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, a very progressive liberal organization, has backed Wickler at the same time. So I think what it shows is that both sides of the party are potentially consolidating around him. We know that Martin O'Malley, former Maryland governor, and New York State Senator James Skopas are also in the field. But at this moment, it seems like this is a Wickler-Martin showdown.